Hi, I'm Natalie Jill, fat loss expert turned high performance coach. When odds are stacked against us, how do we shift and create everything from nothing? How do we level up when we aren't feeling it yet or we've had a big setback? On this podcast, I'll be talking to some of the most inspiring and courageous men and women on this planet who at their worst learned how to achieve success greater than they ever dreamed possible, leveling up and creating everything from nothing. Azature is also known as the Black Diamond King. He designs jewelry influenced from the craftsmanship and mythology of ancient relics and religion to modern pop icons like Beyonce and Rihanna, bridging those diverse inspirations together with impeccably handcrafted jewelry. Azature's work is both intellectual and intuitive. It's also timeless and outrageous. He's known today as the Black Diamond King. But how did he build this from nothing? How did he take a mega vision and create it from scratch? Join in today and learn exactly how Azature leveled up and created everything from nothing. Today, I've got a special treat on leveling up. I'm talking with Azature Pogosian. Did I pronounce it right, Azature? I knew I was going to botch it. Pogosian, Azature Pogosian. And he is a leader with celebrity fine jewelry design, which is a really interesting niche. But I've always heard about him with all these amazing celebrities, and I've heard about his fabulous pieces. And I thought, how the heck did he get to where he is now? How did he get to work with these people? How did he get into this niche market? How did he create everything from nothing there? So thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's a great privilege and honor. So happy to be here.
So we have so many friends in common. We've had the same circle of people, but I've never really understood or knew your whole story here. And it's such a niche market that you're in. Can you take us back? I'm assuming as a little kid, this is not what you thought you'd want to do.
No, as a little kid, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And then I got into all the shiny things and I wanted to be a fashion designer because I thought the Dolce & Gabbana ad campaign was real life.
Okay.
But I got into the diamond business, which is, I like to tell people I dab into different businesses, which I do, but I really started in the diamond business. And it was a complete accident, believe it or not. My mother's family, her side of the family has been in fine jewelry for a very long time. My background was business economics when I went to UCLA undergraduate, and I fell in love with fashion while I was at UCLA. Started an organization on campus. It became a huge success. And I realized I really should follow my passion and not pursue law, which I was planning on doing law school at the time. So coming from a traditional family, my parents are ready to murder me, but thank God I'm still here and alive and kicking.
Yeah, is it because they wanted the traditional? Were they like...
Yeah, they wanted traditional son from a Armenian family who follows the rules and does everything properly and doesn't create so much noise. It wasn't my thing, I guess, because I like to create a lot of chaos and noise in what I do. So
chaos and noise. Yeah. So fashion's a big industry. How did that go into diamonds? Like, how did you decide that and jewelry? And that's so niche. Like that must have seemed somewhat scary. Like this is such a different direction. And it
was very, very scary. When I was in design school, I did my graduate studies at Parsons Design School, which is, a fashion design school in New York City. Like Tom Ford graduated there, Michael Kors, some really big designers. And I started applying for internships, and I actually got hired by this woman named Andrea Lieberman. And when I was applying, I was just desperate. I had no money in New York City, so I needed to get a job. And I got the job. Realized that she was the stylist at the time for Jennifer Lopez and Gwen Stefani. Had no idea. So first day at work, it's like, oh, by the way, on Saturday, we're going to Mark Anthony's house because we're styling J-Lo. In Long Island. I was like, what? Like, this cannot be happening. And so I just went with it. And then I realized that I wanted to dress everyone in black every time. And I wasn't into the floral prints and the zebra prints or whatever that was happening at the time. And I decided, I was like, this is not for me. So I gave in my notice. I was there for about 6 months, maybe to a year. Then I realized New York was very expensive, came back to LA, had a design position at a loungewear company here. Couldn't stand it. It was in Malibu. It was like beachy and seashells and, and I'm all about being in black all the time and very like, edgy, high fashion, like John Galliano was one of my favorite designers, and Tom Ford. So I quit my job. It was Christmas, went to Vegas to celebrate New Year's, and my uncle happened to be there who was in the jewelry business. I missed my flight January 1st. Kind of a long story, but it gets really exciting. But that's what happened. I was stuck in Vegas. My uncle happened to be there. So I took a car ride back with him because I had a job interview on January 2nd with Marciano, the brand Marciano, which is like guest. And in that car ride, my uncle was like, Azature, what the hell are you doing with your life? Like straight A student, law school, ready to go to an Ivy League, and now you're in design and have no job. Like, what on earth are you doing? And I was like, well, I have a dream. I want to be known one day as Azature worldwide. And he's like, okay. He's like, why don't we do this? Why don't I give you $5,000 and you create your own jewelry brand? I would say create your own fashion brand, but I won't be able to guide you. So why don't you get into jewelry? I was like, okay. I had no choice. It was no choice. It was like, it was all just happening. And I was like, sure, why not? And that's where it all started. That's how I got into jewelry. No plan to get into it.
So what's so interesting to me is that I think a lot of people that want to be an entrepreneur or want to create, they get very like chameleon and people pleasing wise. Like you had this opportunity around celebrities. You could have easily gone into, okay, I'm going to create what they want. But you were like, I like all black. I don't like what's going on here. So I'm just going to leave without a plan. That's an interesting dynamic because I've not heard that before with many entrepreneurs. Typically they'll shift and be a chameleon to make that work, to get that on their resume or to get that credibility. Was that even occurring to you that I should not walk away from these things? Or were you just so sure, like I have to do my own thing and create there?
I was sure. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, to be honest, because I was living with, I was back in LA living with my parents. In New York, I was like, I had like roommates in a single room. So I had no privacy, no nothing. And I was just taking this chance. I feel deep down inside in my heart, I knew that I had a very strong vision of what Azature stood for. And when I did not see that world of styling and I knew that it was not interesting to me, I felt somehow my heart pushed me to the net to just move along. Like I didn't get stuck in the styling world because it just wasn't for me. And I knew it wasn't going to get better than Jennifer Lopez and Gwen Stefani. I was like, we're already at the epitome of A-list. Like it ain't going to get that much better. So to be there and to see what day-to-day was, I was like, this is really not for me, because I also can use my creativity 100%, because you still have to, when you're dressing a celebrity, they have a vision of who they are as a brand. So you take 10 seasons and you mold into something unique for them. That's their brand. It's not about your brand. So I feel like I struggled with that, and something inside of me said, move back to LA. And that's,
Wow. Yeah. Because as you're saying that, I'm like, gosh, I don't know many people that would walk away from that. Like I think even me would probably shift and mold and say, okay, that's pretty cool. It's them. I'll do whatever we need to do for them. So that's pretty powerful. And especially without having a full vision on like exactly what it is that you wanted to create.
No vision. I knew I liked everything that sparkles. That's
black and then sparkles. That's what it sounds like. So you didn't really know much about jewelry design. So was it just this uncle kind of guiding you and directing you? And how did you even know what you were going to start creating first?
Well, when I was very young, I used to intern. Like on my summer breaks, I would go into my uncle's manufacturing.
Okay.
I was very young, when I was like 13, 14. Like in the summer break, my mom would be like, why don't you go with your uncle? At least you'll have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
So when he gave me the 5,000, I would already be dressing a certain way. At that point in my life, I was only wearing black. So I had been wearing black for a total of 10 years nonstop. So
were you like a goth person, or was it just, you just liked black?
I just love black. I was actually not a goth person at all. It was, I just love the chicness of the color black.
Interesting.
So I loved a black room, like my bedroom, I painted black. And
wow.
My car was black. I dressed in black. It was my thing. So when he told me this idea, he was like, why don't you just do an Azature jewelry line? I had to literally get on Google and Google black precious stones. That's literally
funny.
plugged in. And now I'm 21 years old, by the way. That's when I launched. So I was 21 years old. Actually, no, I take it back. I was a little younger than that. I think I was like maybe in my 19, 20.
Okay.
But basically I Googled fine pressure and then black diamonds popped up. My uncle had never worked with black diamonds, but that's how I launched the company. And I couldn't afford to put diamonds on all my jewelry pieces. So I created 6 jewelry pieces and 5 pieces had no diamonds on it. And 1 piece, I put the black diamonds on it and I went over budget about like, I don't know, was it $600 or so? And I felt so guilty. I told my uncle, I was like, I feel so bad. But that 1 piece made me who I am today because that's my #1 seller. That was the first piece that Rihanna wore. Rihanna was my first client, celebrity client, which is a whole other story behind that. But that's how I became known as the Black Diamond King because of that 1 piece.
That's funny. So back up on a minute. How did you was this a vision you had? Like, I'm going to create this. Like, did you do research on what would sell? Like, how did you know even what to create? And then how did you get her as a client?
I had no vision at all of what I wanted to create. I felt like I was a walking ad, like a certain kind of like lifestyle as a person because of all the black I was wearing. So the jewelry I created would be jewelry I would wear. Okay. That's really what it was. And as a designer, when you have a design aesthetic, you kind of can design anything, really, whether it's a home, a jewelry, because you have a vision of what you like and you kind of go with it. So I created the jewelry for something I would wear. And the way I ended up getting Rihanna as a client was while I was out marketing these pieces, like going to social events in LA, whatnot, I had met someone from Angelino magazine, which is a local LA magazine here. And in the magazine, there was a tiny little blurb about me with one of the black diamond ring that was the piece I made. There was a picture of it. Yeah. And that's when I got the phone call. It was from that.
Wow. So do you think without your uncle, could you have created this? Or do you think it's because you had that connection and that I'm thinking ahead, just like somebody listening, maybe somebody is listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I've had this idea to be a designer or whatever it is. Is that connection what got you there? Or could you have found that way anyways?
My uncle was strictly manufacturing. So there was no branding. He didn't do any branding. He was a manufacturer, which means that he manufactures for multiple brands, multiple companies. So it's just manufacturing. So branding is a whole other world. So it's 2 separate worlds. So if someone's out there really thinking about, I want to be a fashion designer, jewelry designer, I would say go for it. Because finding a manufacturer, you can find, but the branding part is really who you are and what you're bringing to the table. So looking back now, it's funny because it's like you're this young kid starting this. You don't have really any money. Your uncle loans you $5,000 or gives you $5,000 to start this. How did you battle having a long-term plan or even knowing this was going to work? What was your plan B, or did you not have one? I didn't have one. I tell people that in life, in order to do anything, you got to really be ready to do everything and anything. So being in a comfort zone, I never succeed in a comfort zone. I always succeed by the pressures. Yeah. So I knew that there was no doubt this company would have to work. There was no question in my mind. I was like, I got to make some. I didn't realize where it was going because I didn't really have a vision of where it's going. But I was like, Azature, I don't care what it takes. You've got to make this happen because I had nothing to fall back on. I didn't fall back on my parents. I wasn't going to go back to law school. I didn't have money to go to law school. That sailed. So how did you have to fight your mind daily from going to the what if this doesn't work, or what was that? Because that's what would be coming up for me as I'm listening to you. I'm like, gosh, if you are using everything you have to invest into this and you don't even know, you had to be battling that fear every single day.
And how did you handle that? How did you stay focused on not getting sucked into that?
I had like student loans coming in. I didn't have much of living expenses because I was living with my parents at the time. So realistically, it was like student loans, expenses, driving, car insurance, stuff like that. So I knew that I got to make something out of it.
Yeah.
Every day I struggled mentally to wake up to keep pushing is the part, because I had to go out and network. So I had to go out all the time. And my uncle didn't have a network of people to lead me to Rihanna or to lead me to any client, because he doesn't deal with clients. He only deals with wholesale. That's his business. So it was very tough, but I just had to constantly put myself out there by socializing between some of my friends, and then in being introduced and moving along the social circles. It's like I started meeting people, and it was a battle for me because I would go out and you have to put on the designer vision, and then you go home and you're sleeping or you're crying in bed because oh my God, like how am I going to survive? But I had a really good support system, which was my mother. I had my really good friend Astrid, who's an attorney. She was my support system. So I had a very strong support system. So I'm forever grateful for them, because without them, I think I would have completely.
Yeah. And then my next question, Azature, is I'm sitting here thinking of you being young. You have this jewelry that you've put everything into. How did you basically sell it with conviction without sharing all that? Because I think a lot of people would show up like reserved and like, oh my gosh, I don't actually have success yet. And that comes through. So how did you manage that?
What's really funny is every time I've ever launched anything, I believed in it so much where I used to think, well, it's an honor for anyone to have Azature.
Wow. I love that.
So like, I've owned beauty companies that I just sold last year. I built it in, within 24 hours. It was a massive phenomenon. We could get into it. I owned a chocolate company before. I've owned a clothing company before. And every single thing I've launched this is why I tell people that you must follow your passion, because my heart, blood, soul, DNA, while I sleep and wake up, is all I think about is what I do.
That's incredible.
And it's a piece of me. Like when people buy jewelry, I post images on my Instagram page all the time of people getting the jewelry and the impression that they have, whether it's someone getting engaged, whether it's an anniversary or whatever it is. The joy that brings to people is my everything. And that's how I walked into everything I did. It's purely passion and knowing that it's an honor for someone to own something that I genuinely took so many years to create.
Do you think that everybody has that passion somewhere within? I'm wondering, because I agree with you that if you have the passion and you obsess over it, it works. And it really is that obsession over it. I feel that so many people have this thing where they say, I don't know what my passion is. I'm curious your thoughts around that.
In order for someone to discover their passion, they have to be really diligent in putting themselves out there in the thoughts. So I think people have thoughts of possibilities that they think they can do. And then it's led to your passion by just checking them off. So when I was my undergraduate at UCLA, I had an internship at a marketing firm because I thought marketing is where I wanted to push my creativity. An advertising agency, Deutsche LA, I was there. Before that, I thought law. So I applied for legal internships. I thought fashion design. So I did an internship at BCBG Max Austria, and this was all happening back to back. So when I started feeling like I didn't belong there, I would cut the cord and I didn't even care. Like I was like, I'm only here for a month. It doesn't matter. I got to go. Because for me, I felt college was a time of exploration in discovering truly what I wanted to do. And when I finished UCLA, at least I had a vision. I wanted to do something new, which then I went to Parsons Design School because my background was business economics.
I love what you just said about the thoughts and putting it out there. And because I believe that as well. I do feel that sometimes people, they really do know what their passion is, but they're so in their heads on why it wouldn't work or why it would fail. So they are almost like afraid to admit it's their passion. 100%. So I guess the better question I would tell people that are thinking that is, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail to get to it? Because all kinds of crazy and amazing ideas come out from that, which is exactly what you did.
You got to be fearless, and I'm not saying you wake up every morning and you're like, I'm going to do this. No, there are days where you wake up and you absolutely hate your life and hate the world, and you don't want to get out of bed. I understand that, but you got to remind yourself why you did that. And for me, there was nothing to fall back on, which I don't know if it's for everyone, but for me, definitely when the pressure gets crazy is when I absolutely excel in anything that I do, because I know there's no turning back.
Is it an instant excel, Azature, or like if you could think back to those days where you were struggling, because you were struggling financially, you didn't have the clients yet. How did you pep talk yourself each day to say, okay, I've got to shift into this? I mean, was it you taking on and acting as if, how did you actually, I know there's people listening right now thinking this, and that's why I'm wondering, where they're operating from circumstance, not their vision right now. And I know you get what that's like. So any tools or advice you could give on how you can focus out of that?
I think the key in life is to realize what your self-worth is and what you're offering. So knowing that, you're either, if you have a passion, if you don't have a passion, if you've thought of doing something, just do it. And you don't have to be a professional at anything that you do. People did not start their careers. Madonna didn't become Madonna because she just woke up one day and was like, I have the greatest voice on the planet. No.
Right.
Okay. So she got up and did it. So I think the key is to go into it and push yourself. And in failure happens in business, and it's not going to be instantaneous. So for me, I always tell people my first jewelry sale was 1 year after I launched my company. So I had 365 days, a complete utter ups and down roller coasters, misery.
Wow.
Whatever. So it took me an entire year to make my first jewelry.
Wow.
And then the company, within 2 years, basically I became a millionaire under 30. So the company was about, I don't know, I think I was 28, 27. So it literally just took off by me not even knowing. I didn't even know what was going on because I couldn't, it became out of control because all the stars aligned. And I think the stars align when you walk into something and you're going to do it. There is no turning back.
Yeah.
If you're going to go 1 foot in, 1 foot out, don't do it.
Totally.
You got to go and just do it all the way.
How did you pay for things and fund your life during that year? How did you have to take other jobs and things you didn't like to do?
I had saved up some money while I was in New York working. While I was there, because I had the student loan for school, so most of that covered all my schooling expenses.
Yep.
The money that I was making, I would just set aside. So I had a little bit of that, no astronomical number.
Yeah.
I had saved a little bit, a couple thousand, nothing big. But I basically was, borrowing a car for my family, living with my family. I wasn't going to the movies at age 20 on weekends for sure.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that there is a sacrifice you make.
Yes.
So it's not, and everyone always thought that I was some rich kid.
Yeah.
That daddy gave all the cash and here you are doing jewelry. And it's I stopped telling my story to people because no one ever believed me.
Wow.
I carried myself. No one believed me. I was like, then why am I even saying it? There's no point.
That's so amazing, really, though, if you really think about it. You were so in your vision and so in your character of it and so in the belief system that's why you attracted it. I believe that. If you had operated from the other place of I don't have, I am broke, I might fail, I don't believe you would have been the success. And I think it's evident that you've done some work on this, loving yourself, on knowing your self-worth and living in that vision.
Yeah, I think you knowing who you are is so critical to everything that you do, because it's no matter what you do in life. So that's key. And I firmly believe that there was a better life for me. Coming from humble beginnings to a very conservative family and being who I was, and, very outspoken, and I wasn't going to be traditional, I wasn't going to be, this, kid and just traditional child and doing everything by the book. So it was hard for me to venture out and kind of follow my vision of and I always told my mother, I said, I always knew there was a life there for me. That was not the life I felt like my body and my soul was in a place that didn't belong.
Yeah.
My entire childhood, it was like outside. And then to create something where you feel like you created your universe and you belong is just so special. And that's what makes me happy, because I think the hard work and the sacrifices then lead you to a space of where you can have that kind of freedom.
Now, I'm curious, when you were little and did your parents speak into that with you? I know you said they wanted you to be a lawyer. They had their own vision for you and they weren't happy with the different direction. But did you have a supportive family that had you believing in yourself, or did you have to learn that?
Well, my family was first generation to the U.S., so they didn't know anything about the school systems. They didn't know anything. English was their second language. My father had a very serious addiction problem till I was 30 years old. So he was not part of my life.
Wow.
At all, till I was 30. And I was way into my, business at 30. So it's my mother she worked, very long hours, but when she was with us, she gave us a lot of love. And she celebrated our success. And she always told us, like, if you want to have a better life, you gotta work hard. So the hard work ethic, a lot of love, and just being there for her kids nonstop, and just really helping us, like pushing us to always better ourselves, I think was a big part of it. But my mom till today tells a story of how I found my junior high school, because I was scared to death to go into like a regular school in a bad neighborhood, because we didn't live in the best neighborhood. So I knew if I didn't take a school bus and go outside of the neighborhood that I was growing up in, that I potentially would end up in some sort of, terrible situation at the school.
Wow.
Yeah, so she talks about that all the time.
So it seems like you were very insightful from a kid of what you wanted to surround yourself with and how you wanted to up-level your life.
Yeah, I think from the very beginning, my mom said I was quite special. Like, I didn't like to play with the other kids because I thought it was like they were getting dirty and I didn't want to get dirty.
That's funny. That's an unusual thing.
And she was like, when kids were running around crossing the streets and mothers were like, don't cross the street, there's cars. You were like, I'm not crossing the street.
That's funny.
To walk across the street.
You were special something early on.
There was something going on.
Yeah.
We couldn't explain, but there was
yeah. So the celebrity niche, was that by accident, or were you determined that you wanted to work with celebrities?
Celebrities at the time it was a very different market. So celebrities were part of you getting notoriety. In these days, celebrity, you need like 50 of them to make any sort of noise.
Okay.
Back in the day when I had Rihanna, it was like sold out, so like you would wear a piece and it was done. It was the days of paparazzi and like, which so much has changed since then. So I never thought about working with celebrities, but I did part of the business basically.
So because your stuff is so high end and it's like designer, custom, it's all of this stuff, I'm assuming you're not really selling to the masses, or how does that approach change? Because you're obviously going for a niche type of clientele, or do you like to educate the masses on it and then attract that? Yeah,
I always say that diamonds, there's all price points for diamonds. So people automatically assume that I'm in luxury.
Okay.
So that's an assumption because diamonds equal expensive. But diamonds come in all price points. So I like to educate my clientele to say, it depends on your budget. So there's people that come to me and say, I need an engagement ring for $2,000. I'll make it happen.
Got it. So it's not, so if you have a design, for instance, do you make that same design, but with different quality diamonds? So different people,
because diamonds are such a spectrum. So if people come to me and they say, well, I want the size of the stone is my main concern. So then I'll say, okay, we got to go down on the quality and the color, so I try to work with everyone as much as I can. Now, you can't come and say, well, I want a 10 carat for $500. Then I'm going to be like,
right. That doesn't work. Get cubic zirconia.
Yeah. But reasonably, I'm able to work with people and we're very technologically savvy. So all my clients, most of the time, we're working via text message, Instagram, on my Azature Instagram page, they'll just send me a direct message and I'll, and it starts.
Yeah.
But I'm very open and accommodating because I know that any piece that I create is so special, and jewelry is the type of thing that lasts forever. So it's part of the family, and you could give it to your nieces, your nephews, your kids. So I know what I'm creating, no matter what the price point is. It gets the same amount of love, same amount of attention. If I do create $1 million rings as well. I'm not saying I don't, but I also do create, $1,000, $2,000 pieces.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit into the costume jewelry trend and your thoughts on that? Because it's such there's so much costume jewelry now. Has that affected the market of people buying fine jewelry? Does it help it? Like, I'm just curious how that impacts, or if it doesn't at all.
It doesn't impact fine jewelry at all. Fine jewelry is a very refined consumer that no matter who they are, whether it's a very special moment they're buying their piece for, whether it's an engagement, a birthday that's special related, or it's someone that's very refined to the point where they're not even looking sometimes at costume jewelry, because it's a very good costume jewelry. I did costume jewelry for a while as well, because when the celebrities were doing tours, like when I did work with Rihanna when she was doing the tour, they didn't want to take diamonds on tour. So I made pieces out of costume material, and I had that collection called AZ by Azature. It had a very so I that division I don't do as much anymore, but there was a very 5-6 year period where we did costume jewelry. So it's two different clients, and I also think some people they want to have jewelry on at the beach. They don't want to take their diamonds.
For sure.
So, two separate worlds.
Yeah.
Most of my clients probably dab into both.
So Azature, any setbacks along the ways over the years where you thought maybe you're in the wrong field, maybe you'll change it around, and how did you overcome those?
The challenges that I always had and the setbacks that I had were always related to people. It was I genuinely when we have success, and I'm Armenian, so when we have a certain kind of success, we want to share our success with other people. We want to support other people in their dreams and in their aspirations. And I think I realized very quickly that not everybody has the best intention for you, so they will ride on your success to get what they want.
Yes.
So my biggest setbacks in life have been to really limit, certain people in my life for many, many years. They were good friends of mine, and then out of nowhere, they did me dirty, and just certain scenarios happen. And I think the best lesson that I've learned in my setbacks is you've got to cut people out. Don't even think twice. It hurts because you've known them for such a long time, but it affects so much. So I think my biggest setbacks have been I've been too trustworthy in my business. Now, jewelry wise, it's a roller coaster, because when people have money, fine jewelry is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
People start feeling the push, or there's too much noise about wars, and having a president that loves drama. Sometimes I don't. But drama every day on Twitter, people get emotional about it, whether it's really happening or it's not. There's emotions. So that's the type of business I'm in. So I always say we know first in fine jewelry who the successful ones are. Right now, believe it or not, most of my clientele is U.S. based. Mm-hmm. Where my business over the years have been, Middle East was huge at one point, and Russia was huge, and then Asia was huge. Now the U.S. is the one that's booming for fine jewelry. So it's interesting to see all these things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can tell that you've got such a positive mindset, and you're so vision driven and focused. So I'm wondering, even if you didn't have to experience this because you lived in your vision so much, I'm wondering how you would advise someone if they're listening right now and they're in their own personal rock bottom, or they haven't established what it is that they're creating yet. They're a hardship place, and you were to give them advice on how they could start shifting and changing and creating everything from nothing. What would you tell them?
I would say diamonds are created under pressure, and diamonds have been my savior all my life. Pressure for me is the best thing that can happen. So if you're in a position where you feel like you're pressured, you're not feeling yourself, you feel like you're under a lot of bills and finance, whatever, this is probably the best time for you to think to yourself, I got to do something, and I got to do it now. So I always say, don't waste your time, and truly believe in yourself. conviction is such an important quality, because you should never think there's anyone better. I don't deserve what I've created more than you deserve what you want to create. We're all very equal. It's just how far are you willing to go, and how far are you willing to push yourself to really get there. And it's going to be very uncomfortable. So
good. And I love that. It's funny that you said that about diamonds being created under pressure, because sounds like how you've lived your whole life. And that totally sums up your career. Like, that's where you've created the best of things. It was when you were under pressure.
Yeah, because outside I'm sparkling, and you're looking at me thinking, rich kid, no financial worries, daddy built his business. Reality is I'm stuck in a house, that's the size, like my house today is very different the way I live today. But my bathroom in this house, my guest bathroom in this house, is the size of close to like more than half of the house I grew up in.
Wow.
So and I'm not saying that to be like, oh, this is, look at me. I'm just saying that sometimes you don't need to convince anyone anything, because no one wants, how should I put this? No one wants your success more than you do.
Yeah.
So you can't trust yourself. You can't depend on other people to be like, oh, here's the golden ticket. Go be successful. It's you. And I've learned that sometimes it's hard for us to accept that, but we are the reason of our current situation. Yeah. And we can't really blame anyone. And it's not luck. It's not, you had an opportunity and I didn't. Like, sorry, not buying into that. I don't believe in that. It's about how hard are you going to work, and how much conviction do you have that to go there no matter what it takes. So good. So good. Azature, where can people find you? You can find me. The best way to find me is on IG, on Instagram, which is just Azature, Azature. And the jewelry is beautiful over there when you follow that page. Thank you so much. It is my pride and joy. And when you get on, don't get freaked out, because I have a lot of 15 karat, 10 karat. Yeah. This is what people love to see. Yeah. So I give people what they want to see. It's amazing. But we do everything, all price points, and I'm happy to, Incredible. Thank you so much, Azature. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for leveling up with us today. Please share this episode if you found it helpful so others can join in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on future shows. And if you would leave me a 5-star review, I appreciate those so much. I read all of them, and it's how I know that I'm giving you information that you find valuable. And come interact with me over on Instagram at NatalieJillFit. I read all the direct messages and comments over there. Make it a great day, creating everything from nothing.